Good day, folks. Looking at recycling was actually a way of life in Newfoundland before the word recycling was even popularized or even, I guess, invented. It was the way you did things, like for instance the milk came in a bottle that had a returnable on it, and that got recycled back into. And of course our pop bottles did. Now this one is from PEI. They had a campaign to ban the can, so they didn't allow the disposable containers on there, and that's what we have today, the plastic, and of course the can, and that's what PEI banned, was the can. But in any event, these disposable containers, they were touted at the time, just became garbage, so then they had to invent this recycling program to combat the garbage. But in any event, recycling was always happening here in regards to these containers that always went back, your milk bottle and a pop bottle. And of course, still to this day, beer bottles still go back. But recycling here in Newfoundland was more of a culture because you couldn't afford to throw anything away. And you look at this old anchor here. It just looks like, I guess, any old anchor if you're not really familiar with anchors and so on. But then you start sizing it up and it looks a little odd. There's a hole there. And then this doesn't appear to be perfect at all. It seems to be out of that. And there's a story behind it, and how there was a need for such a device. And of course to buy one was a bit expensive, but if you got some stuff lying around that you couldn't throw away, certainly it wouldn't be garbage, it would be repurposed or recycled into something else. So here were some drill rods that were obviously worn. They were chopped off. You can see where one of them at one point in time went down to a fitting, but they were separately actually a bit newer and a lot different than the shaft. Now if you size up the shaft, you'll notice that this part of it here is tapered. This is where a wooden wheel went on a cart that a horse would have carried, and this is where it bolted up through the wood to put the cart onto the axle. And then of course the wheels would have went on this end. Now on this end of the anchor, you can see that's been chopped off, and it's just been a round piece. Now this is forged on by a blacksmith back in the 50s, and this piece here was added on, I guess, around that time to put chain on it. Now interesting, this was bought new at the time, and this was fabricated by a blacksmith apparently in Kilgoose, Mr. Tom Farrell apparently at the time. But in any event, was the axle, whole cart that a horse would have drawn, and some drill rods, which were a little bit newer technology, but they were discarded. So the blacksmith bent it all up, forged it together, and it got used and repurposed. So this is a way of life in Newfoundland. You reuse what you got around. But the advent of disposable containers is what caused the need for recycling. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.